Om Sarvadharma Sthapakastvam Sarvadharma Swarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Te Namaha. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master, second part, Master of the Spiritual Aspirant or Struggler or Sadhak, and we are in the fourth chapter now. And the name of the chapter is the Kali Temple at Dakshineshwar. And we are at two paragraphs. And in that, we have to say something more. First is that why we are studying Rani Rasmani in so much detail while studying Thakur. Because if God does Leela, God appears as man, then he does his work of redemption of humanity along with some of his associates. We call them Leela Sahacharas. His accomplices in this Leela. And Rani is one such accomplice. And we are studying that because we get so many spiritual values by studying these accomplices. So we are not interested simply in the biography of Sri Ramakrishna. We are learning from Sri Ramakrishna spiritual values in its infinite dimension. But as help to our mind to be fit to receive this, we require also to learn the spiritual values from the associates in his Leela. And there the Rani stands as one of the associates. And as we read two paragraphs, now the end of the second paragraph, we have read three paragraphs, but the end of the second paragraph, the descendants of the four daughters of the Rani are living till this day. And there is a footnote on that. Now there is a peculiar, what to say, mistake or I do not know. We read yesterday just two generations that Rani Rasmani was married to Rajchandra Das and she had four daughters and who are the husbands of those daughters. But in the original Bengali, because Saradananda Swami says the descendants of the four daughters of the Rani are living till this day. So he, in the Bengali book, if you see, we'll have to find some English edition. If you see here in the Bengali book, four generations are given. So what I can do at the most in this class is to read it out. And this is given to show that this is an historical fact. We are not reading some mythology. So even today, that means when Saradananda Swami was writing this, the descendants were living. So this he mentions only as an historical fact. And as to catch that historicity, let us once read out that lineage. So you find, I'll read out not by generation, but by taking one string at a time. So Rani Rasmani is married to Rai Rajchandra Das. Rai is not given in the English. Now, she had four daughters. Now take up the first daughter, Padma Mani. And Padma Mani was married to Ramachandra Das. And they had three sons, Ganesh, Balaram, Sitanath. And Ganesh's wife is not mentioned, but Ganesha's son is Gopala Krishna, and he was married to Girivala. And the second son is Balaram. And Balaram's wife's name is not given. Shyam, Shiva, Yogi, Ajit. There is 4 sons. Then we come to the, so first daughter's lineage 4 generations are over. We shift to the second daughter Kumari. She was married to Pari Chaudhary. They had a son named Yadunath, and Yadunath had Chandi, Prasanna, Dulal, Kishore, and Nanda as their sons and daughters. Now we shift to the third daughter, Karunamai, who was married to Mathuranath Vishwas, and they had a son named Bhupal. And Bhupal had Shashi, Girish, and Manindra. Shashi, Girindra, and Manindra. So that does with the third daughter. Then we come to fourth daughter married to Mathuranath. Her name is Jagdamba Dasi, and she had 3 sons, Dwarik, Trailokya, Thakurdas. Now this Dwarik had Gurudas, Kalidas, Durgadas. And Trailokya had Shri Gopal, Vraj Gopal, Nritya Gopal, Mohan Gopal. And the last son, Thakurdas, had a son, Shamacharan. So this is what the Bengali Leelaprasanga has mentioned. So we find that the last generation and some of the third generation were present when Saradananda Swamiji wrote this book. So the whole thing is historical. Then we read the third paragraph that Kalipada Vilashi Rasmani Dasi. And Thakur has told that in every matter with her life, this was clear that she was the Dasi of Kali. Now, we come to the fourth paragraph. And that is how the temple came into existence as a divine providence. That we are coming to. Rani we have read. The Rani got divine instruction when she was getting ready to go to Kashi. The Rani, it is said, had cherished in her heart for a long time a strong desire to go to Kashi and pay obeisance and offer special worship to Vishweshwara. That is, Vishwanath is called Vishweshwara also. Vireshwara is different, no, who was prayed by Vivekananda's mother. This is Vishwanath, as we know him, also called Vishweshwara. Special worship to Vishweshwara, the Lord of the universe, and Annapurna, the Divine Mother. So, Vishwanath temple does not have this Annapurna. Just a little away, there is this temple of Annapurna. And Annapurna is a form of the goddess Parvati. So, we read in Shankaracharya Stotra, a separate stotra for this Annapurna. Bhiksham Dehi Krupa Avalambana Kari Kashi Puradhishwari. So, she is the Adhishwari of the Kashi Puri. So, Rani wanted to go and do some worship to Annapurna and also Shiva. It is also said that she had collected and set apart a vast sum of money for that purpose. So for some years she is accumulating money because this going to Kashi and worship would take a lot of money. But as her husband had died suddenly, so this was even before, in the presence of her husband, she was collecting money. But her husband had died suddenly, and she had to shoulder the responsibility of managing the whole property. She had not been able to carry out her intention so far. Became busy in managing the property. Now that her sons-in-law had learned to help her in this matter, and particularly the youngest Mathura Mohan. Now the name sometimes mentioned as Mathura Nath, sometimes as Mathura Mohan. Youngest Mathura Mohan had become her right-hand man. She was getting ready to start for Kashi. So management has become smooth now. Now she wants to go to Kashi. When everything was ready, she had the vision of the goddess in a dream the night before the departure. Here there is a footnote. Some say that Rani Rasmani started by boat and came to the village of Dakshineshwar to the north of Calcutta. She got that prohibitory instruction when she was passing the night there in the boat. Now the actual narration says that before she started, she got this command. Some people say that she had started and her first halt was on Dakshineshwar and there she got the command. Because we do not have other documentary proof for that. The goddess gave her this instruction, there is no need to go to Kashi. Install my stone image in a beautiful spot on the bank of the Bhagirathi. Bhagirathi is Ganga. And arrange for my daily worship and food offering. Food offering also is mentioned here. I shall manifest myself in the image and accept your worship daily. So need not go to Annapurna. Here itself I will accept. The devout Rani was highly delighted to receive this instruction. She put off going to Kashi and made up her mind to spend the accumulated money on that holy undertaking. Now the next para, the first line seems to be incongruous and I do not find it in Bengali at all. The next para heading is the Rani built the temple. Now the first line in English says, we cannot say how far that rumor is true. To call it a rumor. And when two versions are told about the same fact, so this is, I do not know it has come in English because this is not at all there in Bengali. We cannot say how far that rumor is true, but it is certain that I think up to this portion should be deleted. According to Bengali, the Rani's long accumulated devotion to the Mother of the Universe was about to assume a visible form in the shape of the temple. So because she got this command, she wanted to build the temple. No question of any rumor coming in between. And the image. In the shape of the temple and the image, both are important. Because temple means so many things. And image is for worship. Temple means giving food to so many people and making arrangement for sadhus to stay, scholars to stay. So temple means so many things. She purchased a spacious piece of land on the bank of the Bhagirathi, spent a large sum of money and began to build on it a big temple with 9 spires and other small temples. Main temple will be Kali temple. Along with that, there are 12 Shiva temples there and one Radhakanta temple. Began to build on it a big temple with 9 spires and other small temples and laid out a garden attached to them. So that is another beauty garden. Though the work of construction was going on for 7 or 8 years, see the bigness of that venture, what Rani wanted to do. All the money she had accumulated, she wants to spend in this way. Though the work of construction was going on for 7 or 8 years, the whole edifice was not completed even in AD 1855. But the Rani reflected within herself, as life is uncertain, the desire of installing the mother of the universe may not be fulfilled in my lifetime if it takes such a long time to complete the temple. Revolving in her mind thus, the Rani at the ceremony of the installation of the mother performed on the Snana Yatra day on May 31, AD 1855. Now the Snana Yatra is a Vaishnava festival. Lord Jagannath of Puri is taken ceremoniously to a bath in the ocean. So that is the Snana Yatra. Now, this is a Kali temple, Shakti worship, not Vishnu temple. So why she did this day? Because she will get another command, we shall read that, and no other auspicious day was available before that. So, therefore she decided to do it on Snan Yatra day. So, we will be told now, as it is necessary for the reader to know a few events that took place before this, we narrate them below. So before this, there are events important with that. The Rani's desire to offer cooked food to the goddess. In the command itself is read that the Devi told her, give me cooked food. And Rani naturally wants to do that because the heartfelt worship will not be complete unless I offer food to the god. Either because of the instruction she received from the goddess herself or out of a natural hankering of her heart for devotees. For devotees always love to serve their chosen ideals with things they them consider best. So what I consider best, I want to offer. So food must be offered. There arose a great eagerness in the mind of the Rani to offer cooked food, either due to that command or due to the natural desire. Daily, cook food daily to the mother. The Rani thought, temples and other buildings have been built to my liking. I am going to dedicate property sufficient for the carrying on of the service. But in spite of doing all this, if I cannot serve her to my heart's content and offer her cooked food daily, everything will be in vain. Why? It will fetch me at the most a little name. People will say Rani Rasmani has left behind her such a glory. But of what avail are such words of the people to me? Saradananda Swami has entered Rani's mind. O Mother of the Universe, she fervently prayed, thou hast given me much name and fame in other respects. We have seen that all. But in this case, do not befool me by giving me this trash. It does not matter whether fame accrues to me or not, but pray, remain always actually manifested here and fulfill the heart's desire of this servant of thine by accepting daily service, including cooked food. One thing I mentioned that you have to learn spiritual values from Rani. So you should remember that yesterday we read her magnanimity, how much she struggled for the poor, number one. How much she did for the general public, how much she did by building temples, and what was her nobility in fighting with the British soldiers, what was her ingenuity in chaining the Ganges. So all this put together are spiritual values which we have to follow in life. Not that those events will come in our life, but that spirit and those values we have to cherish and practice in our life. Now, we come to this. She procured Shastric opinions from Pandits. These proved to be obstacles to the fulfillment of her desire. That was the custom in those days. Ask Pandits, call a meeting, or ask them to give their written opinions. Now, what happened? She was very rich, but she was of a lower caste, fisherman's family, what we call scheduled caste these days. So, if she offers cooked food, the prasadam will not be accepted by the Brahmins. And she don't want to feed only the Rani, but she would sumptuously offer cooked food so that the prasadam is given to Brahmins, all, including Brahmins. But the Brahmins won't accept that. Not only that, Brahmins may not come forward to do the puja also, because it is a temple of the Shudra. That is the narrowness prevailing in society in those days, even today. The Rani saw that her low birth and the custom of society. So, if the custom of society was not that, even with her low birth she could have done it. And if had she been a Brahmin, then there was no custom coming in the way. So, and that means her low birth and the custom of society were the main obstacles standing in the way of her offering cooked food. Main means some others were minor. Her own heart, however, never doubted that the Mother of the Universe would accept her offering of cooked food. So, her devotion is true. She has enough money. So, why would that mother not accept her cooked food? It is, mother has no distinction of lower and higher caste, first thing. And laws of society will not be binding on the mother. So, that is what her thought process was going on. In fact, her heart was always full of joy at that thought. So, this is another way of testing our criteria. If we think something, we should feel joyful about it, then that thinking is correct, not otherwise. Not that if you feel joyful, always the thinking is correct. But for thinking to be correct, this is a necessary condition. Otherwise, bad things, immediately the mind gets contracted. Her own heart, however, never doubted that the Mother of the Universe would accept her offering of cooked food. In fact, for her heart was always full of joy at that thought and was never hesitant. Why was then that improper custom current? So she has to find out and how that can be overridden. Who wrote the scriptures? Was the author of the scriptures a heartless man? Or another way why it is not done? Or urged by self-interest, did he ordain a rite for the higher caste superior even to the goddess. He means who? Author of the scriptures. Author of the scriptures was a heartless man, or in the interest of his cause, he made this rule. She would rather follow. If so, she had no use for such scriptures. But then people have to follow that. She would rather follow the sacred longings of her heart. But what was the way out even then? Were she to act against the prevailing custom, the devout Brahmins and good people would not come to the temple to take prasad. What was then the solution? The Rani had the written opinions of Pandits brought from various places, but none of them was to her liking. They would not agree. Ram Kumar gave his opinion in her favor. Ram Kumar did not want to get her favor, but he found her sincerity and he found that there can be a way out. We may quote this by saying, he looked at the whole thing positively. Rani's desire is there. So some way should be found out without rejecting the scriptures. He is not supporting her politically, you do it, no like that. From scriptures he has to find out some method. Although the construction of the temple, now the history, although the construction of the temple and the making of the image had been completed, there was no sign of the fulfillment of the Rani's desire to serve her to her heart's content. The Rani had scriptural prescriptions from scholars, big and small, but failed to have her wish fulfilled. When all her hopes were almost dashed to the ground, one day a prescription came from the Chatushpati at Jamapukur, which read, now a wonderful solution. It requires more sacrifice by the Rani. If the Rani makes a gift of the property to a Brahmin, property means the temple and the associated property, make a gift to a Brahmin. Now, if you make gift to the Brahmin, it is construction might have been done by her. But now Brahmin is the owner of that temple. And so people cannot object. That is Ramkumar's brain. One day prescription came from the Chatushpati at Jamapukur which read, if the Rani makes a gift of the property to a Brahmin and he installs the goddess in the temple and makes arrangement about the offering of cooked food, the principle of the scriptures will be accurately observed and the Brahmins and other high castes will not then incur blemish if they take prasad in the temple. Okay. The Rani decided to consecrate the temple, getting this favorable writing. Hopes revived in the Rani's heart. She decided to consecrate the temple in the name of her Guru and with his permission take the position of an officer of superintending his property and the service in his temple. So, ownership Brahmins. Rani becomes agent of the Brahmins to manage the affairs. So, in this way, the injunction would be followed and a practical way out was found. Because she was not greedy, but the priests were not people with high knowledge. They will not be able to manage all these things. So make it in them and become their agent and do it. So all this means somehow the positive way is found out without damaging the injunction of the Shastras. Afterward, the Rani informed other Pandits of her intention of following the scriptural prescription given by Ramkumar, because All should agree to this. Although they did not dare say plainly that it would be an unscriptural action, they nevertheless said the action is against the prevailing custom. That is the problem. Scriptures are not opposing, but custom. Prevailing custom of society. The Brahmins and other good people will not take prasad there, even though it is done that way. Now, another dilemma. Ram Kumar's Catholicity, that means broadness of the mind, going against the opinions of the scholars, finding a way out. We can very well infer that the Rani's attention was very much attracted to Ram Kumar by this event. When one ponders, one finds that to issue such a prescription in those days was indicative of not a little Catholicity on the part of Ram Kumar. Very big broadness should be there to prescribe this against the normal customs. The minds of the Brahmin Pandits, the leaders of society, had got confined to a narrow groove in those days, clearly mentions. There were few among them who could step out of it, read a liberal meaning in the injunctions of the scriptures, and give opinions according to circumstances. Consequently, people felt an inclination to set at naught their opinion. So people would go against their opinion because they had very narrow opinions. If you do not follow the scriptures or mandates of the Brahmins, it is not our fault, but their own fault. The Rani's search for a suitable priest. So she has to find a suitable priest. The connection, so divine providence is working to bring Ramkumar and Sri Ramakrishna there. The connection of the Rani with Ramkumar, however, did not end there. Although she paid proper respect to the members of the family of her spiritual teacher, that was the custom. If there is a spiritual teacher, go give his speech, and you can take guidance from anybody else without hurting his self-interest of that spiritual teacher. Although she paid proper respect to the members of the family of her spiritual teacher, the intelligent Rani observed distinctly their ignorance of the scriptures and unfitness to perform divine service. According to them, according to the scriptures, they do not know scriptures and they do not know how to do everyday worship according to scriptures, but they are family gurus. Therefore, she made up her mind to see that the whole charge of the service of the new temple was permanently placed in the hands of Brahmins of virtuous conduct, well versed in the scriptures, taking care at the same time that the just and proper farewell gifts, etc., due to her Guru's family were not affected. So go on paying to the family of the Guru whatever is needed and do this. Here again, the prevailing custom of society stood in her way. In those days, the Brahmins, born of good families and devoted to religious traditions, did not even salute the deities installed by Shudras, let alone worship. So, Guru's family cannot do. Find out a proper Brahmin. Brahmins would not even make pranams in such temples. What to say of the offering a post there? They regarded the degraded Brahmins, such as the family of the Rani's spiritual teacher, virtually as Shudras. Why you become Guru of the Shudras? Because you are a Shudra, like that. It was therefore no wonder that no Brahmin of virtuous conduct able to perform worship and officiate as a priest agreed to take charge of the worship in the Rani's temple. That is how Ramkumar comes in. However, the Rani did not give up hope, and increasing the remuneration and the pay, continued to search for a priest in various places. And now two things are mentioned, remuneration and the pay. So pay and other benefits, pay packet as we say these days. Now one sentence is missing, Papa. Why it happens like that? No, it is there in the beginning of the para. The connection of the Rani with Ramkumar, however, did not end there. For details, we are going back and finding out. Mahesh Chandra, an officer of the Rani, took the responsibility of procuring priests. The home of Hemangini Devi, the master's cousin, was to the village of Shihod. C-H-A-R in English. The Bengali pronunciation is Shihod. Not far from Kamarpukur. Many Brahmins lived there. One Mahesh Chandra Chattopadhyay of that village. What is the Chattopadhyay? Chattagram is now in Bangladesh. And Brahmins coming from Chattagram are Chattopadhyay. Mahesh Chandra Chattopadhyay of that village served in the estate of the Rani, thinking perhaps that he might be able to earn a little money thereby. So that was his interest. He came forward to procure Brahmins for the Rani's temple to work as priests, cooks, etc. So by that he will get more favor from the Rani. Mahesh undertook to make that arrangement and selected his elder brother Kshetranath for the post of a priest in the temple of Radha Govinda. So one is self-interest, one is showing to the people, he say, my brother will work, so you will also work. Either with a view to convincing the poor Brahmins of the village that accepting employment in the Rani's temples was not reprehensible, poor Brahmins, because they will get money there. Or with a view to improving the pecuniary condition of his family, or both. That is Saradananda Swamiji said. Either for economic development of his own family appointed his brother, or by showing the brother he will gain encouragement to other Brahmins, the poor Brahmins. But he became very anxious. As he appointed one of his own family to work for the Rani, it became easy to a great extent to procure other Brahmins for service in the temples. But he became very anxious when, in spite of much effort, he could not procure a fit priest for the Kali temple. So the Brahmins, if they are Vaishnavas by nature, they like to worship Vishnu. Kali worship is more complicated and difficult. So, though he appointed Kshetranath, priest may come forward, and he does not want more priests for the Radhakanta temple. He wants for Kali temple. So one side it has become easy, but this is still difficult. The Rani requested Ram Kumar to accept the office of the temple. This is how it runs. Mahesh had been for a long time acquainted with Ram Kumar because he was from Shiod, the place near. Though Ram Kumar was a member of some other gang, as I told you yesterday, it seems they had a conventional relationship established between them which you can infer from the village custom. Near villages, serve friends. It was not unknown to Mahesh that Ramkumar was a devout sadhaka and had long ago become initiated in the mantra of Shakti of his own accord. Though they were Ram Bhaktas, Ramkumar had got by his own will initiated into Shakti. We infer that this inference, all these are called circumstantial evidence. So circumstances he knows in details, but from there he infers. We infer that Mahesh knew of the want and insufficiency in Ramkumar's household. There is another factor. Only people who in dire need may accept that. So his attention was drawn to Ramkumar at the time of seeking a priest for the temple of the Mother Kali. But the next moment he remembered that Ramkumar was a Brahmin who did not officiate in sacrifices performed by Shudras. This he has inherited from his father. Although he sometimes accepted the post of a priest in the houses of Digambar Mitra and others in Calcutta, would he accept it in the temple of the Rani who was a Kaivar? So in the modern terminology, Brahmins are higher caste, then other backward classes, then scheduled caste. So Mitra and others are from other backward classes. There he might have done, but will he do it in the scheduled caste? Although he sometimes accepted the post of a priest in house of Digambar Mitra and others in Calcutta, would he accept it in the temple of the Rani who was a Kaivarta by birth? It was very doubtful. But the day for the installation of the goddess was near at hand, and a suitable priest was not available yet. Revolving all this in his mind, so everybody's mind, Saradananda Swamiji enters, and that is the great lesson for us. We are able to learn the basic thoughts and virtuous thoughts by that. Only some actions do not make the character of a man, but what is behind that action. Revolving all this in my mind, thought it reasonable to make an effort, once at least in that direction. However, he did not himself immediately set about doing that. He told the Rani everything and asked her to invite and request Ram Kumar to accept the office of the priest for the day of installation at least. That was the original thought. Because installation requires a very elaborate service. And perform all the rites on that day. The Rani had already a high opinion of Ram Kumar's fitness as she got the scriptural prescription from him. So she was much delighted at the prospect of his office. First she had not thought of this, but that Mahesh thought like that, and Rani became happy. She was much delighted at the prospect of his offering as the priest and sent him, officiating as the priest, and sent him word with great humility. I am now ready to install the Mother of the Universe on the strength of your prescription, wrote she. And I have also arranged everything in order to perform that ceremony at an auspicious moment on the day of the coming Snan Yatra. We have got a priest for Radha Govinda, but no suitable Brahmin is coming forward to officiate as the priest of the Mother Kali and help me in the act of her installation. These days in Tamil Nadu and now slowly in all India, you should pass some examination. You should know how to worship. Then you may belong to any caste and you are appointed as the temple. This was started by Jayalalitha in Tamil Nadu and now it is in other places as well, but not in those days. But no suitable Brahmin is coming forward to officiate the priest of the Mother Kali and help me in the act of her installation. Therefore, please make an arrangement. She is not saying you come directly. Therefore, please make an arrangement that may seem possible to you and deliver me from this predicament. As you are a good scholar, well versed in the scriptures, it is needless for me to tell you that anyone and everyone cannot be appointed to officiate at the priest. Some poor man may become ready, but he may not have knowledge proper. Mahesh himself went to Ramkumar with this letter, conveying the request, because personal approach also should be made. If he goes individually, it will not have that weight. If he takes Rani's letter, that will be great. And plus, he may talk. Mahesh himself went to Ramkumar with the letter, conveying the request, explained the situation to him in various ways, and prevailed upon him to agree to officiate as the priest until a suitable one was available. If he does not want to serve permanently, he will find another, but please temporarily do it. The devout Ramkumar, devoid of avarice, he did not do because of greed of money. All these are spiritual values, as Sharad Maharaj is stating. He is not simply describing an event. The devout Ramkumar, devoid of avarice, came at first to Dakshineshwar, lest the installation of the Universal Mother should have to be given up. So I would help in the installation. Then at the humble request of the Rani and Mahesh Babu, he lived there for the rest of his life, as he saw that there was no other suitable priest available. All events of the world, great or small, come to pass by the will of the Divine Mother. Who can say whether or not Ramkumar, a devotee of the goddess, know the will of the source of the wills and accepted that office? So might be he got a command from the mother herself. Installation of the goddess by the Rani. Now, where have we missed the footnote mark? The devout, last line, the devout Ramkumar, last line of the previous page. The devout Ramkumar, devoid of avarice, came at first to Dakshineshwar, lest the installation, this as a footnote. Because there is another version. And so, Saradananda Swamiji thinks both should be partly true. Because that version also seems to have come from a competitive fit person. So that he has given in, he thinks this is the proper one. So the other thing he gives as footnote. We heard from Hriday, the master's nephew, the description mentioned above. Hriday, Thakur's sister's son, he served Thakur like anything physically for years together, and from him they have heard this incident. The other is from but Ramlal, the master's elder brother's son, Ramkumar's son, Ramlal, gives a different account. He says Ramdhan Ghosh of the village of Deshra near Kamarpukur was an officer of Rani Rasmani. The Rani held him in high regard for his efficiency and he gradually rose to be her secretary. As he was known to Ramkumar, because Deshra also is near there, near Kamarpukur. As he was known to Ramkumar, he sent him a letter of invitation to come to take his farewell gifts at the time of the consecration ceremony of the Kali temple. So he has only invited him as a guest to the secretion ceremony. Ramkumar came to the Jan Bazar house of the Rani and said to Ramdan, he did not accept it immediately. The Rani is a Kaivartha wifer. We are Brahmins belonging to the Radhi class. In Bengal, there are three parts of Bengal: Banga, Gaud, and Rad. Banga has become Bangladesh. So, Gaud and Rad. Now, the Radi Brahmanas hold themselves superior than the others. Maharashtrians will remember here Kokunastha and Deshastha part. We are Brahmins belonging to the Radi class. We shall be boycotted if we accept her invitation to take gifts. Ramdan showed him a list and said, why? Just see how many Brahmins of that class have been invited. Not that they accepted, they have been invited. They will all come and accept gifts from the Rani. Ramkumar agreed to accept gifts and came to Dakshineshwar with the master the day before the consecration. There flowed a current of bliss in the temple on that day on account of the performance of Yatra, the singing of the glory of Kali, the reading of the Bhagavata and of the Ramayana, and so on. There was no cessation of that current of bliss even during the night. Every nook and corner of the temple was as bright as day on account of innumerable lights. Now, Ramkumar's, no, uh, Ramkumar's son, what we're doing. Ramlal, Ramkumar's son was not present there. But this he has gathered. The master used to say, so in between master sentences, going round the temple one felt the Rani had brought the silver mountain and placed it there. Everywhere light shining bright white. Ramkumar came to the Kali temple to see the festival the day before the installation, because from the previous day itself it has started. It is inferred from what Ramlal said. So from this another inference, that Ramkumar came to Dakshineshwar and accepted the office of the priest as the request of both Ramdan and Mahesh. That is Saradan Swamiji's inference. Okay, now we proceed. Installation with the goddess by the Rani, that main thing now. The Rani got Ramkumar to officiate as the priest in that unexpected way and installed the Mother of the Universe in the new temple with great pomp on Thursday, May 31st, AD 1855, the day of the Snan Yatra. It is said that on that occasion, the temple was continuously filled day and night with the noise of feasts and festivities. The Rani spent money unstintedly and did her best to make all the guests and others as happy as herself. Many professors of the Shastras and Brahmin Pandits came on that occasion. From places famous for scholars, places such as the distant Kannekubja, Kanauj it is called, Kashi, Sylhet is in East Bengal or Assam. East Bengal. Chittagong, that is that Chattagram. The Britishers have made it Chittagong. Orissa, Navadvip, etc. Each of them got a silk cloth, a wrapper, and gold coins as farewell presents. A wrapper is something like the chadar or shawl, decorative wrapper. The Rani, it is said, spent 900,000 rupees In those days, 9 lakhs. Today, we don't know how many crores. 900,000 rupees on the building and the consecration ceremony of the temple together. She purchased from Triloknath Thakur. Triloknath, and that Jagdamba's son is not mentioned. This is Thakur. Triloknath Thakur for 226,000 rupees. The Salbadi Pargana in the subdivision of Thakurgaon in the district of Dinajpur. What is this Pargana? That which is called Tahsil these days. Taluk, Tahsil, Pargana. Subdivision of Thakurgaon, district Dinajpur, subdivision Thakurgaon, Pargana, Salbadi. And executed a deed of gift and dedicated the property to the service of the Devottar Sampatti. The income from that will go to manage the temple. How the master behaved on the installation day. So from there we pick up tomorrow. Up till now, background is fully made ready. Yesterday, somebody asked me a question and the answer will come tomorrow. That when he was so liberal in accepting dhani, not only first Bhiksha Mata, but snatching cooked food from her, why he appears so strict during his sadhana period about food? So that reply is coming tomorrow. Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyana Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Yate Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.